Hey guys, it's Rip Fletching with a couple of products I use. Plus I'm going to go over how I clean the shafts and cool stuff. But anyway, stay to the end. I'm going to go over some of this and how I use it. Alright. Hope you guys have had a really good season for hunting. We've been basically ice fishing for months. South Dakota has been very cold this year. So I see a lot of videos on how people fletch, how they prep their arrows and things like that. And I guess you can do it however you want to. Try to get comfortable here. I'm trying to get rid of, I can make a video for you guys. I'll show you what I do, especially on stubborn. I don't always use, you know, the best glue or this or that. I'm using super glues and stuff. So this is what you've got. Of course, there's tools to do this, but this is how I do it. I'll take a little knife and I'll pop my fletchings off, just like that. Scrape it down, take your next one, pop those feathers off for you trad guys. Try to get as much of the bulk off as you can. You can get it pretty good. I mean, you can actually get them clean enough just to fletch over with just a knife. But I'm going to show you some other techniques I use to get it really, really clean. And you know, super glue it's brittle. There are some better glues for fletching, but it's handy. We all have it at home. Okay, so we've got all this off with just the knife, and I'm careful not to dig into my blade into my arrow shaft. Now I'll show you what I do to prep this. Now there's a couple of things I use. I've got some real fine sanding block. I can take that and I lock the arrow in to apply a little bit of pressure, and I'll go up and down on the shaft as I slowly turn it. And it works pretty quick, so you don't have, I'll show you. You don't want to get too carried away. There's a little carbon on there, but it's really fine. Another thing I'll do is if you don't have a sanding block, you got a little bit of sandpaper. Is the same type deal. If you've got a stubborn spot where there's some super glue built up, you can knock it off like that. Actually, that's already clean. This thing is ready to go right now. But I'm going to show you some other things you can do, other products that I use. This is acetone, fingernail polish remover. It's really cheap. You can get it at Walmart. It dries really fast, so you got to be pretty quick. Put that on a paper towel. Normally, if you're doing a bunch of shafts, you have them all ready. You can hear that. Yeah, it's clean. So you just get that really clean. You can hear it. You know that is stripped. There's no oils on here, and it is ready to go. Super glue's been removed. It is perfectly flat, perfectly smooth, and it's ready. Another thing I do with my Fletcher is I index it. So if you can zoom in here. Okay, I took some red fingernail polish, which I use on fishing baits, and I line up so I have a starting point all the time. Let me put the lid on this. I know everybody has kind of their own techniques that they use, and I know this isn't rocket science. We're just fletching up some arrows. Oh, this is something I should go over. So you guys at 3D shoot, stump shooting, whatever, to keep from losing your tip, you know, like what do you do? Well, there's a couple of little things that I do. You can take a little tiny piece of painter's tape, put on your thread, screw it in. You can take a little piece of very light fishing line, put on your thread, or a little piece of a feather, just any little item that you can put in there, and it'll give a little resistance when you tighten it down, and you can see it kind of gets stiff. It won't back out. It won't loosen up when you shoot. It really works good. Alright, so I take my tip off. The reason I do is because whenever I'm putting my arrow on my jig, I've got it out here for you guys. I don't want this heavy and flipping over my stuff. Which it may do anyway, because I've just got on this glass table here trying to work it for y'all, so we'll see. So on this one, let's see, I'm probably going to do 2 pinks and a white. These are 4-inch right hand fletch. Now I don't always shoot a 4-inch. As you guys know, sometimes when I'm shooting 3D, I'm shooting 4 1 1/4 inch fletchings. Very, very tiny. And if you'll go back on some of my videos, I'll show you how I cut my fletchings. The base of this fletching, have her to zoom in on that, I'll show you. Now, see if this one's a good example. So this one I've cut off, so it's lost a lot of the thickness, but I take and I trim this base so it's not so beefy. The reason is if you're shooting a lot off the shelf, you can get some rubbing or over penetration on your target, different things like that. It can hang on this excess and rip your fletchings off. So I really streamline these. I've got a video on how to do that. So we'll kind of go from there. So I typically go on your, you do what's best for you, you measure out. Now when I shoot, when I draw back, I'm 3 under, when I come back, I touch my nose to the outside feather, to the cock feather. So I have a certain length or distance I want that feather from the back of my arrow shaft, so it's perfect for me. Once you've figured out what that is with your other arrows, whatever shooting technique you use, you'll want to mark that, and then so you can duplicate. You want all of your arrows exactly the same because that goes into consistency. Consistency of shooting, I've got some videos on how I shoot and how I get consistency and accuracy. Now this one we're going to put on with just cheapo crazy glue, super glue. And I actually kind of like this because it has this tiny little applicator. So, and as I get older, a little farsighted. Let's load this up. Alright, just a real thin layer of super glue. And these are the VAPs, the VAP, the armor piercing. They're a micro diameter shaft. I have killed so many animals with this. They're so good. I guess it was about 2 years ago, while this glue is drying. Oh, I'm showing off my European mount too, guys. Check that out. I just had that finished up. That's Jeff, one of my friends here in Rapid City, did my Euro mount for me. I thought it turned out pretty good. So I've got 2 more coming. That's where we're at right now on this one. I just got it finished up. We'll get the other 2 out. So sorry to interrupt. So we'll go back. This should be about ready here. Let's see. That's another thing. This cheap super glues, they're quick. They are fast drying. All right. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Oh. So another thing is when you take some of the excess bulk off the base of these feathers, I mean, you don't want to get carried away with it, but your arrows fly faster. It's a really nice. I've got a video on how to do it, and I should do some speed tests and show you. I don't know if it would show up that close to coming off the bow, but I can tell you what, at long range, it does show up. Let me get this glued up here. Uh-oh, I may be running out of super glue. I have to run down and grab another little thing of super glue. Alright, while that one's drying, I'm going to run down and grab some more super glue. Be right back, guys. hate when I'm opening a new super glue because you guys know these things are messy sometimes. Let's see how it goes. It's going to puncture that top. Let's see if that did it. Oh yeah, it did. Okay. Hopefully I had enough super glue on this one. Let's see. I think we did. Awesome. All right, and third and last one. You guys give me some feedback. Tell me what you want to see on these videos. I enjoy doing them for you. It's a lot of fun. In South Dakota, it's cold in the winter, so I don't have a lot of time outside shooting right now. Hopefully we'll get to do some good shooting videos coming up. When I lived down south, I did a lot of roaming where you walk through the woods and you shoot a lot of rotten stumps and branches and things like that. But out west, it's a very dry climate. So you shoot something dead out here, you're probably breaking. The dead trees are as hard as a rock. So you want to be really careful doing that. But it's great. I mean, the Western lifestyle is really nice. Lots of big hills and mountains and big animals. A lot of fun. Now, I haven't used this brand. I did a video on cheap glues, and this is actually one of them. It's called Permatex. It's a super glue. You can get it at Walmart, and I think you can get like 4 of these tubes for $1. But it's not where you would think it would be. It's actually in the automotive section. So go check it out at Walmart. So I don't know exactly how long this one takes. I think it was quick, if I remember correctly. Well, let's give it a sample. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Always go around and check. Make sure everything's pushed down on all the ends. Now, there's one little thing I like to do here when I'm finishing up with an arrow shaft. Your weakest points usually are at the front and back of that fletching. So what I'll do is I'll take my super glue, and if you can zoom in here, I'll show you something. Where the tip of this feather is, that's where it can hang on your plate, on your shelf of your bow, and come loose. So I put one little drop on each one of those. And it'll just run down the front of that arrow, and it really glues that on nice. And I'll also do the same thing on the back. Just one drop. It doesn't take much. Matter of fact, if you put more than a drop, it's counterintuitive, because what will happen, it's going to run up, it'll absorb up into the back of the fletchings. It doesn't really hurt anything, but it's not best. The fletchings will be really stiff toward the back. So that is finished. Then what I do from there, because I've got it set up, it's ready to go. So we'll put our tip back on. And as you know, I've got I was trying to think what I used on this one. I think I used a little piece of tape on this one, but it's fantastic. Now this is a 250 spine. It is stiff. It is really stiff. This is the one I shot through the buffalo. Just absolutely passed right through. All right. So to recap what I do typically to prep my arrow, get the fletchings off, your old fletchings, with whatever means you normally use. I use a semi-sharp knife. You want it sharp enough to cut it off, but not sharp enough that it wants to eat into your carbon. Then I finish it off with a ultra-fine sanding block or ultra fine sandpaper that I don't damage my shaft, but I can work that super glue off, prep the surface, then I clean all the powdered carbon, all the contaminants off with a nail polish remover. That is acetone. Alright guys, so that's that part. That's how I do it. Now I want to go over a couple of products that I use and highly recommend. You guys that shoot traditional, it's a little trickier getting these to work. They're designed for the compound bows, but I'll show you what I use. This is from the Ultimate Predator. These are phenomenal. You just strap it on the back of your bow, and what I actually do, and so the company doesn't recommend this, I like for it to be offset, because since I'm a trad guy and I'm shooting through here, I like to have a large opening that I can see and gauge the distance of the animal. You know, for if you're a gap shooter or an instinctive shooter, you can pull this back and take your shot. Now a lot of times, turkey hunting, you're going to be down on the ground like this, okay? Now, and I've used this already on turkeys. You see how that works? Especially if there's some grass, you're in the edge of the prairie, or you've got a little bit of cover out there, you've snuck through the woods, and you're nice and camoed up. I'm going to slip over here. You can see, if you've snuck through the woods and you're down, you get up here, and then you draw back. You've got a nice sight window here. Really good, really quiet. Let me show you. No sound produced by this. Really cool setup. And I've got another one here. Is the deer. This is a whitetail deer here. Same type deal. Set up your bow in there. Works phenomenal. I shot a mule deer with this whitetail deer decoy I put on my bow. Put a stock. There were 3 big muleys up on the side of the mountain. It was so steep I actually had to climb up part of it to get the shot. But they were just mesmerized by this deer because I used it as cover the whole time. I'm guarding my profile with this deer. So they were a little spooked, but they were curious. They kept stopping and looking, especially a buck. If he's in rut, he will be interested. Now, these are very lifelike. There's something you need to not use these on public hunting grounds. You need to know your area. Preferably on private land. Don't do it during gun season. You could end up killed. Okay, but they are phenomenal. I've already got my turkey tags. I'm going to be using this soon. I've got a spot down on the river. We're going to be going after some turkeys here pretty soon. And hopefully we're going to do some coyotes. So that's kind of another video that'll be coming out. I'm going to take this and I'm going to set up with the turkey. The coyotes love to eat turkeys. So we're going to get camoed out. We're going to do our turkey calls. Call, you know, maybe some animals in distress when these coyotes start coming in. This will put them in an aggressive mode. I've actually had coyotes try to attack me before while I'm turkey hunting. They work that well. So when that coyote commits to you, just draw back and let him have it. It's going to be great. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I know this is stuff you already know. I know you know how to fletch an arrow, but I keep seeing these videos on people and they're requesting information on how do you prep your shaft, how do you get the old glue off, they're afraid of damaging it and so forth. Well, that's how I do it. Now, is it the perfect way, the way they recommend? Probably not. But that's how I do it. It's worked for me. I've won multiple state championships, so it apparently hasn't damaged it much. I kill a lot of game. That's what I'm going to suggest to you to do. You want to go really fine stuff. See, the acetone just won't get the glue off well enough. There will be little high and low. If you looked at it close, little high and low points on that shaft. So when you're gluing down this feather, on this arrow shaft, and there's little impurities in there, little high points, you'll have where you can see light possibly between there, create little weak points. And when these arrows are coming off that bow, they're just ripping through the wind. Let alone if there's rain or if it hits some grass or a limb or something like that, they'll just come right off. So you want to make sure you have a really tight glue bond on there. And you want to make sure, and I wish I had a good way to show you this, but I don't with the equipment I have. You want to make sure that your fletching jig is set up perfect. They're very adjustable. When your arrow is in there, it needs to be touching in the middle of that shaft. You know, it needs to, there are no gaps all the way down. Make sure it's very precise. It doesn't have to be for shooting purposes, for hunting, but for the longevity of those fletchings on the shaft, they need to have a really good adhesion. And so prepping that shaft and making sure your jig is set up right is probably the best thing you can do in that. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Follow me, you know, I'm also on Facebook, but hit that little bell. Hopefully I'll have some good stuff coming out. I want to do some ice fishing videos. The problem is when it's like 20 below zero, it's hard to keep those batteries warm enough to set up a camera like this and catch fish, but we'll see what we can do. I will catch you later and see you in the woods.